And I hope that this stimulates you to think and consider ways to maybe integrate bodybuilding and or fitness into your life in order to improve it, especially if you're a high-performing ADHD person and you're struggling a little bit. So let me end with this. You were never meant to be calm. Calm is not for the ADHD person, okay? You are meant to be directed. You don't need less fire, okay? What you need is a forge to forge that fire. Bodybuilding, it's not, forget it, it's not about aesthetics. It's not about, I mean, that's a byproduct, you know, but it's about that containment of that intensity and that redirection of that intensity. And once that intensity is contained, you can turn it into power instead of having a chaotic existence. Well, hello and welcome everyone. This is Gonzo Herrera from Bryce 41, your host, friendly neighborhood podcaster, biohacker, coach, whatever it is that you want to call me. In any case, for today's essay, I guess, FYI podcast, we have an interesting topic that I find very near and dear to my heart as a person, as an ADHD or person who lives with ADHD. And today's topic is ADHD, high performers, and why bodybuilding works when nothing else does. Hopefully, you'll find it interesting. And this may help those of you that know me from before my transformation understand why bodybuilding has become such a front and center, such a driving force, such an important facet of the of what I do, in order to stay fit, healthy, and functional as a human being, as I try to continuously improve, and why I am a big proponent of strength training and weightlifting in order for people to improve, be it, again, mentally, spiritually, physically. But in any case, again, the topic today, ADHD, high performers, and why bodybuilding works when nothing else does. And I hope you find some value in it. So let's just dive right into it. So first, let's set the stage as I usually do. First, you have to understand ADHD, the person with ADHD, the misdiagnosed predator, if you will. And what do I mean by that? Let me say something this is going to immediately split the audience. So if you agree, disagree, there's a comment section below. Go for it. Have at it. I'll answer any questions you want. I'll take any critiques. But here's what I'm going to say that's going to split the audience. Most high performers with ADHD are not dysfunctional. They are overpowered systems dropped into very fragile environments. And what do I mean when I say that? So, okay, you don't have a broken brain with ADHD, all right? You have a very high output nervous system running without proper load management. And what does that mean? Again, let's break it down, simplify it even further. So ADHD isn't a deficit of attention. It's a surplus of cognitive horsepower with no traction control, okay? You don't lack motivation. You lack regulated resistance. You lack enough cycles to engage all that mental horsepower that you have. And that's why, if you're an ADHD person like myself, you can obsess about a topic for, say, 14 hours straight. You can just do it. You know, if it's something that fascinates you, you can hyper-focus on that stupid thing, whatever it may be, for 14 hours straight. But you can't do admin work without your soul leaving your body. Like, oh, this is boring and repetitive. I can't do this. This is why, under pressure, you can crush those deadlines, those cramming sessions, those last minute, do or die collaborative sessions, say in the office, or brainstorming sessions. This is where you excel. But when things are calm, routine, you collapse. You just bore yourself to death. You just go into a coma. When things are like, routine, calm feels unsafe to your nervous system is basically what this boils down to. And that's the first uncomfortable truth that you have to realize, right? Because we need to understand how people with ADHD operate in order to then take advantage of this system. And we'll talk about that. So, all right. So first point, now that we've established what's going on with ADHD and how you require more load for that brain. So ADHD as an evolutionary load-bearing trait. let's dive a little bit into this, a little bit. So ADHD makes zero sense in a society that's like driven by spreadsheets and data, a calm, logical, rational, if you will, society. But it makes perfect sense in an ancestral, primitive context. What am I talking about? So your nervous system evolved to do the following things: to scan the environment constantly, threat detection, detect anything that could kill you, hurt you, or yours, recognize patterns very quickly, make rapid decisions, because again, do or die, fight or flight, that kind of thing. Like identify the threat, see the movement. What do I do quickly? A burst of extreme effort, because again, to survive, you're surprised by that saber-toothed tiger coming to jump on you. So, you have to be able to that sprint out of there or fight real hard in order to kill it and eliminate the threat, that kind of thing. So high novelty, high consequence environments, this is where the ADHD person thrives. This is what you're evolved to handle. Okay? What basically you're built for pressure, for chaos, and for physical demand. For these things that are hard and hard in bursts and surprising and quick. What you are not built for is cubicles, endless abstraction, and thought exercises, delayed rewards. That doesn't work for you. Meaningless tasks that are just rote, that have serve in your perception, serve no real value, or performative productivity. I filed the report. I do my TPS reports every single morning at 5 a.m. And then at 5 p.m., I do my second TPS report. Why? Because I'm asked to do it. Did something happen? No, but I have to file the report. That's anathema for ADHD. So what happens? You're played in a system that removes that physical exertion in modern society, right? We don't have saber-toothed tigers jumping at us in the office. If you remove the immediate feedback, right? Because, I'll send in a report or an email and wait for feedback. It might be a day or two, whatever. It removes any real consequences. As long as I file the report, even if the report sucks or it's done, there's no real, you're not going to die. No one's going to come to your office and go like, you didn't file the report, boom, and kill you. That's not going to happen. You might get a reprimand, you might be asked to change something and fix it, but there's no real lasting damaging consequences that could endanger you. And all of the fight or flight reflex stuff is replaced with digital noise. It's just everyday digital noise. It's a constant buzz of digital noise all around you. Zzz, just kind of like low level, nothing threatening. Your brain does what it has to do to survive, and it hunts dopamine. Now, we've talked about dopamine on this podcast many, many times. Dopamine is critical for the ADHD brain, which brings us to our second point. So dopamine, ADHD, and the collapse of modern motivation. So here's the part that almost everyone gets wrong. ADHD is not a willpower issue. It's not an issue that you can like will yourself into doing things. It is a dopamine signaling and reward calibration issue. So dopamine is not pleasure. Dopamine is anticipation and pursuit. Dopamine is the pursuit hormone. Okay? ADHD brains, baseline dopamine is lower than the typical brain. Okay? The dopamine spikes are sharper, and the dopamine crashes are harder than the typical person. And so this creates three very distinct patterns for the ADHD brain to handle these dopamine rises, spikes, and crashes. The first one is, and this one, if you know an ADHD person, you've seen this. You've seen this in action. This is our superpower, one of the superpowers, and it's hyperfocus. Hyperfocus, when something is new, when something is meaningful, right? It has some value. Something is challenging or something is urgent. There's a sense of criticality. You become completely unstoppable because your ADHD brain goes into, let's get this thing done. Let's conquer it. Let's take care of the threat. So the pursuit dopamine hormone is actively at work here and engaged. Your brain is, I love this. This is what I live for, to solve these issues. And you become unstoppable. The second pattern that emerges for the ADHD brain with dopamine and so forth is paralysis. So when something is really abstract and vague and conceptual, It has low feedback. It just doesn't really give you much. You tinker with it. It doesn't like give you any real feedback. If it feels like it's bureaucratic or systemic like that in any way, shape, or form, something that's not important and just paper pushing or emotionally flat, this will lead to paralysis because your brain will refuse to engage. Your brain will identify this is a non-threat. Why are you bothering me with this thing? So your brain will go into paralysis mode. It will literally shut you down when you attempt to engage with this task, with this thing that it's identified as abstract, low feedback, bureaucratic, or emotionally flat. It doesn't care. It's not a threat. So who cares? So your brain goes into paralysis. Like it files in under like, I'll do it later. I don't care. The third one, and this one is very, very important. And this one, once I understood it, it changed my life. It's self-medication. So what are we talking about with self-medication? So caffeine, nicotine, sugar, porn, scrolling, risk, drama, all of these things are for self-medication purposes, not because you're weak. It's because your nervous system is starving. And here's the kicker. These things all provide cheap dopamine with very little effort. It's very simple for me to open up Instagram and start scrolling through for an hour or two and waste my time, get my little dopamine hit. It's very simple for me to grab a cup of coffee and drink it or smoke a cigarette and have some nicotine. Porn, everywhere nowadays. Risk behavior, again, you can go and find something risky to do. Seeking drama when it's not necessary, again, very simple. Cheap dopamine trains your brain to hate effort because it's simple, it's easy. And remember, dopamine is the pursuit hormone. So if you don't need to pursue it because it's there, productivity hacks stop working and they don't rebuild dopamine pathways. And all you're doing is rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic when you're trying to do this. If you don't realize what's going on really, truly behind that loop of behavior, of self-medication, and your ADHD brain and why it's seeking that self-medication, because it's not paralyzed, but it's also not hyper-focused. It's just looking for that dopamine that it's lacking, which leads to our third point, which is why now take that, what we discussed, and place it in our theoretical model with a high performer. So the third point is why high performance spiral without a physical outlet. Because so far we talked a lot about the mental aspect of it. I guess you could say somewhat spiritual, possibly, but definitely more the mental aspect. So high performers with ADHD don't drift into dysfunction, okay? They just don't randomly get there. They explode into it, okay? And that's because when the nervous system has excess energy with no outlet, it will seek to create conflict. It will chase that stimulation, remember the pursuit hormone, manufacture urgency where there is none, and sabotage your stability. It will literally create scenarios of urgency and emergency in order to pursue that dopamine hit. You don't burn out because you do too much, okay? That's not it. You're burning out because you never discharge your stress physically, you never resolve arousal, and you never close your stress loops. You just open them. So your brain stays stuck in what is called sympathetic overdrive, which is a fight or flight, but without release, without actually fighting or fleeing. You just stuck in that moment. And no amount of journaling fixes a body that was meant to do things, to take action. And in this case, bodybuilding can be that action, moving iron. Okay? Which brings us to the fourth point of this essay, verbal essay, if you will. And this is, let me explain why bodybuilding is a neurological cheat code. So now we hit the core thesis of this essay. Bodybuilding works when nothing else does because it aligns perfectly with the ADHD nervous system. And let's break this down very clinically, very directly, and pretty brutally. Let's go ahead and do that. So, number one, it's earned dopamine rewiring. So training creates effort, right? Because there's effort, then, there's effort in the exercise and lifting. There's a struggle. After the struggle, there's completion. You finish the struggle. You finish those sets. You get that relief. Whew, I'm glad I'm done. And there's the reward. Okay, that sequence of effort to struggle, actual physical struggle. Well, I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'm doing it to completion. I finished the struggle. I succeeded. To the relief of realizing I have succeeded in the struggle. And then now I get my dopamine reward. That sequence rebuilds that dopamine sensitivity, unlike scrolling, for example. So lifting, it increases that dopamine receptor density by doing this. It improves your baseline motivation, and it restores your effort reward coupling. Second point to remember here as to why, bodybuilding's a neurological cheat code is this: somatic dominance over cognitive noise. Under load, the body takes priority because now you're under threat, right? You're squatting 400 pounds. You're going to pay attention to that. Your mind is not going to wander when you've got a big giant bar with a ton of weight crushing you, or that might crush you if you're not careful. You can't overthink. You can't ruminate over it. You certainly can spiral, and you certainly cannot disassociate, because this is all very real, very physical, and very much happening right now. Your mind shuts up because survival is momentarily irrelevant. All of a sudden, your very existence is potentially threatened by what you're doing. It's forced presence. It forces you to be there, right? Because you have to handle the physicality, the reality of this threat. This is why lifting beats meditation for an ADHD brain, because meditation asks the mind to calm itself, but bodybuilding forces the issue. You don't have an option. You have to calm your mind. If you don't do it, you're going to get crushed and you're going to get hurt. Third reason why it's a hack, it's the binary truth systems. And the bar doesn't care how you feel. The mirror doesn't lie. Recovery is non-negotiable. It happens or it doesn't happen. So ADHD brains thrive in clear systems, hard rules, and honest feedback. All the things that bodybuilding is giving you. It removes all ambiguity. You're either tired or you're not. You can move the load or you can't. You can lift the thing or you can't lift the thing. You're recovered or you're sore. These are all very clear, direct, honest feedback loops. And the rules are very simple. Move the weight or be crushed. Again, it removes all kind of ambiguity. Another point, fourth point, is structured obsession. This is almost like the secret sauce of this whole thing. ADHD brains actually need obsession. They just need it channeled. Okay? So bodybuilding allows obsession without destruction. What am I talking about? So obsession about, say, your nutritional macros, your training splits. What's better? I'm going to push-pull legs. Is it a bro split is better? Upper, lower body, whole body workouts. Sleeping. Am I supposed to sleep 6 hours, 7, 8? What is it that I actually need? What's too much? What's optimal? What's minimal? Recovery. Am I feeling good? Am I progressing? Am I regressing? Am I really sore? Is this affecting my day-to-day? The progression. Am I lifting heavier? Am I getting stronger? Am I getting better? You get to go all in on this, and without burning your life down. You can do all of these things and have these feedback loops that will take care of ADHD in a way that's actually healthy. And that's actually, again, it won't burn your life down. You won't destroy your life. It's a way to channel that obsession that ADHD people need to thrive. Which brings us to our fifth overall point, which is bodybuilding can also help as identity stabilization and self-parenting. Okay, what do I mean by that? So nobody talks about this at all either. I've never really heard it addressed directly, but it's kind of important. It's kind of like the everything, the core of this thesis too. And it is this: that bodybuilding can become external structure. It helps structure your week, your days, your time. Internal discipline. I must go and do this challenge that will challenge it helps me emotionally regulate. By doing this, I take care of a lot of my emotional stresses and needs in a way that's healthy and that I can handle and that I can predict and control. It also gives you some identity coherence. I identify as a bodybuilder, as a fitness person. This is what I do in order to not be a disaster of a human. Okay, this is something that helps me become healthy and functional. So many many high performers probably grew up without consistent structure, emotional containment, or predictable boundaries. They lived in this world of like gray what ifs and not clear rules. And bodybuilding provides, again, routine. So the rules are very simple and very, very strict. Self-trust, you have to do it. You have to do it yourself. Only you can do it. So it's self-trust. It provides very much delayed gratification because it's a long game. Building muscle and becoming healthy is not something that happens overnight. It's something that you have to do day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out in order to see the benefits. And then, of course, that self-respect that you're earning, because you're earning it. You're putting in the sweat equity. You're putting in the effort. It's not affirmed from the outside. You can see it. It's earned. And it's self-respect. You stop outsourcing that discipline. You become the discipline, if that makes any sense. And once that body's regulated, so your sleep is going to start improving. Your impulsivity is going to drop because now you have places to focus that ADHD energy. Your focus is going to improve because, again, you have an outlet. And your emotional volatility decreases because, yet again, you have a way to channel those ADHD impulses, those fight or flight reflexes. This is not magic. This is mechanistic. It's just completely mechanistic. By doing physically things that engage and optimize the way your brain works as a person with ADHD. Another sixth point, which is the final truth. Let me end this essay, and I hope that this stimulates you to think and consider ways to maybe integrate bodybuilding and or fitness into your life in order to improve it, especially if you're a high-performing ADHD person and you're struggling a little bit. So let me end with this. You were never meant to be calm. Calm is not for the ADHD person, okay? You are meant to be directed. You don't need less fire, okay? What you need is a forge to forge that fire. Bodybuilding, it's not about aesthetics. It's not about, that's a byproduct. But it's about that containment of that intensity and that redirection of that intensity. And once that intensity is contained, you can turn it into power instead of having a chaotic existence. So this way you can like train super heavy, and you can, again, you can channel the chaos and turn it into power. So you can train heavy, you can recover seriously, right? Stop apologizing for your nature. You are what you are as an ADHD person. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand it so you can channel that way of being in a way that's creative, productive, and helps you thrive. You're not broken, okay? ADHD person, high performer. You're simply underloaded. And this bodybuilding is one way, not the only way, but one very easy to understand way to become that high performer that you can be and optimize the way your ADHD brain works. So, all right. And that's all I have for today. Again, agree, disagree. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you learn something? Hopefully you did. If nothing else, I hope I entertained you for a few minutes and made you consider some things that perhaps you hadn't thought about. So with that being said, thank you so much for spending the time. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff that we do here on YouTube. Help me grow the channel. And I'll try and come up with other interesting topics and essays like this one to, if nothing else, give you something to think about and entertain you, maybe challenge your perceptions, and maybe help you consider and improve in a way that you didn't consider before. Because again, this channel is all about continuous and relentless improvement, spiritually, physically, mentally, to become a better person than you were yesterday, every single day, 1% better, a little bit better. So with that, thank you so much for your time. This is Gonzo Herrera with Rise 41 signing off. Thank you so much.